the members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. I'm here today with only two co-hosts. First of all, Julian Harper.
Welcome, welcome.
Second of all, Michael Graves, a.k.a.
Namaste.
Big Mike.
Namaste.
And unfortunately, Father Lucas won't be here with us today. He's on assignment. We'd like to welcome our viewing audience a happy and blessed new year. We're all grateful to the Creator and the ancestors for bringing us through another year. We hopefully will have some progression in a whole lot of areas that our community needs to come together. But we'd like to welcome you to what we hope to be a very, very informative program. This is where talk and truth
real truth and talk.
Real talk and truth. Our brothers always say that at the beginning of every program. So right to our information, as is customary, we like to reflect on a great individual ancestor, now an ancestor from our community. Professor Henry Clark is going to have his centennial celebration coming up. Michael, why don't you tell our audience about this great individual and his upcoming event?
We're very excited to announce that this Friday, January the 9th, at Convent Avenue Baptist Church, where First World used to be, 145th Street and Convent Avenue, at 7 p.m., we're going to have the centennial celebration for the great Dr. John Henry Clark, who taught us our history, taught us who our identity is, and taught us ultimately to love ourselves in that history. So we're looking forward to a great event, 145th Street and Convent Avenue Baptist Church, this Friday, January 9th.
And what time again?
7 p.m.
All right, 7 p.m. And we're going to look at a videotape of Professor Clark, and I encourage all of you, those who may not be familiar with Professor Clark or have any of his tapes, you can catch a lot of his information on YouTube. So sometime when your children are sitting in the house and looking at nothing on TV, you need to just maybe, if you especially have a smart TV or a computer, just put on YouTube and just sit down and let that be your television. Look at Professor Clark, one of his many, many informative lectures, which I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy, because although he was a professor, he always taught so that everybody can understand what he's talking about. He was very easy to follow. So let's look at a clip of his. The name of this tape is called White World Control, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
When all organized Western religions are male chauvinist murder cults. All organized Western religions have made God ungodly. Anybody that says his God gives you the right to enslave another people have made God ungodly. That's right. And anybody who says that his God chose him over other people have made God into a bigot. Yes. If God is love, God does not choose one people over another. Now my complication around the concept of race and color began as a Baptist Sunday school teacher when I wanted to teach Sunday school at an early age. And so therefore I had to read the Bible, pronounce words like Deuteronomy, and I did. And then when I had to go through these little tracts, little fold-out Sunday school lessons sent from a white Baptist publishing company in Tennessee. And when I looked at all of those angels, all white, and I had a great-grandmother who told me God was love, God was no respect of kith and kin, and he is the Father of us all. It was those angels that confused me. All the people that died, not one little brown or black angel sneaked into heaven. I began to understand something had gone wrong with God's book. Somebody had tampered with God's book. All right. Misuses were being made of the Holy Book. Where am I? I look in the book, I see Moses, born in Africa, goes down to Ethiopia to marry Zipporah. Moses gets white, Zipporah gets white. I see people going to the land of Punt, which is present-day Somalia, they get white. People going to Kush, the present-day Sudan, where I found blue black people, they get white. I couldn't find any black people in Africa, and the Bible unfolding in Africa. I couldn't even find any black people. I'm confused now. That I'm wondering about all of it. And I'm in Georgia, a teenager. I'm mowing lawn, airing dogs, and doing all kind of chores to keep body and soul together before school and after school. I'm being pushed off the sidewalk by white thugs. One time I almost pushed off a bridge. In the meantime, I'm being told that this is superior people. Now, why does superior people need to prey on a lonely, straggly delivery boy, lawnmower, kid ain't bothered nobody trying to make a buck. You're shining white people's shoes, polishing all those buttons and all the officers' clothes. You're trying to keep it together. Well, what you got to pray on it. You sure can't be brave, but you got to take 6 of you who want to pray on him. So, why is the bravery? What's the superiority? I'm going to suspect something.
Very, very powerful. That's only just a segment of a speech given by Professor Clark called White World Control. And, you know, as it relates to any religious book or any spiritual concept, some people may suggest that it really doesn't make a difference what color the angels are, really doesn't make a difference what color Moses was and Abraham. Yeah, they was born in Africa, but it really doesn't make a difference. So why did somebody make them Europeans? Because it does make a difference. Perhaps not in people's spiritual walk, but in the way people visualize spirituality themselves as it relates to their relationship with the Bible and to the scriptures and et cetera, et cetera. So it is some importance also. People who transformed the individuals of the Bible wouldn't have did it. They would have just made a presentation or spoke about their ethnicity or their origin without any change, without any change whatsoever. So, Julian, what is some of your comments on Professor Clark's comments?
Well, I think it's important that, the information he put forth, that we really, really pay attention to it, because as well as, Noel, you're talking about someone's spiritual perception, there's a perception of power as well. So when people look at someone who's in a position of power, someone as superiority, even when you look at your God, and if you don't see him looking like you, if you see him looking other than you, that gives the person who has the either the look or the perception of that particular God power over you, because you see God in him. And it's unfortunate that over the years we haven't learned to accept the information that's put out in the Bible that describes the location and everything that would dictate that the people that are being described during the time of Moses were of African descent, that they were black. And I concur with you. If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. So let's not allow someone to remove who we are from the scriptures and replace it with themselves.
Michael, I know I said make a comment, but hold on a second, Hart. And Michael, you can answer this. I seen Charlton Hester's The 10 Commandments. So you're going to tell me, because I ain't seen one brother in the whole movie. Maybe somebody was a slave on the side.
That's what it was.
Your comments, Mike, on this.
Well, brother, when you watch those Tarzan movies, people always question, how does Tarzan always beat lions? And the obvious response is, lions don't make movies. When they finance the movie, the lions will win those battles. So That's why you have this situation. So this is just all fantasy of white folks. We used to have a caller that used to call in and ask us, why are we trying to act as if Egypt was white, act as if Egypt was black? And we said, well, Egypt is a part of Africa, and it's Ethiopia's oldest daughter. And so, and that Egypt says that their history, ancient Kemet says its history is southward. So you have to go deep into the south, where as Dr. Clark described the Africans, blue-black. So, this is why, when you see these movies, you have to dispel it. And when we talk about Dr. Clark, certainly we're in rarefied air when we talk about his magnificent, master teaching, which he does. And so in a comedic way, he dismisses the myth of white supremacy in so many ways. He had everyone in the audience laughing, but certainly we could see and understand just how he was talking about everything from the myth of white supremacy and how no God would choose one people over another. No one can take land in God's name and say, God gave me permission to take this land. So that whole thing about manifest destiny and, Europeans killing, Native Americans because God somehow inspired them to do it. So that dispels so many myths that we have to go. So I'm looking forward to Friday to be there to celebrate Dr. Clark's life. And certainly he was a master teacher. And not only was he a master teacher, he created other master teachers like, Professor Leonard Jeffries, who will be there. So it's a good event. And certainly we should never forget Dr. Clark and his contributions to make us who we are.
All right. Since we were last here, we had some unfortunate did you want to say something?
No,
I'm sorry. Incidents. We had 2 officers who were killed in Bedford-Stuyvesant community, the 49 precinct, Officer Ramos and Officer Liu. Since that killing, some people attempted to blame the protests, for creating an atmosphere whereby the officers were killed. You have PBA President Patty Lynch and many police officers pointing fingers to the police commissioners contributing to an atmosphere where police officers will be killed. Julian, you know that we make a distinction between anti-police abuse marches and killing, two police officers. Some people try to merge them together. What are some of your thoughts on the killing of these 2 police officers and some of the accusations made by the union officials that the marches against police brutality somehow contributed?
Well, first of all, as I said before, my condolences go out to the families of those officers. It was a real tragedy. I mean, they were assassinated, and I think it's important that everyone understand that the person who was responsible for that was working alone. He was by himself. He was deranged, out of his mind. He had psychological issues. So I think that's what needs to be attached to the unfortunate death of those particular officers. And again, my condolences go out to the families. I have a major problem with the PBA and the elected officials utilizing this tragedy for political power, gain, balance, and I have a major problem with that. I think that the politics should have been set aside. I think that the family should have an opportunity to mourn the loss. I think that members of the police department who are suffering, because I'm sure that there are masses, if not all, well, I'd say all people in the police department really feel a real loss for the tragic death of those 2 officers. So I think everybody should have an opportunity to truly mourn, and the politics should have been put aside. When they attempt to attach the protest to that unfortunate murder, I think that's a problem as well. I think these are 2 separate entities. I think that the people who are protesting are requesting, asking for, and demanding respect, fair policing, impartial policing, the end to any abuse by the police in their communities. And I think that's fair. I think they have an opportunity. I think they have the right to do that, and they should do that. I think we should all do that. I think even members of the police department should be requesting the same thing. Because I'm sure that there are officers that are working, that see some of these abuses, but fail to say anything about it because of that blue wall of silence that exists, and because they may be ostracized and so many other things may happen to them if they say something against their brothers and sisters in blue. So I think it's really time for all the elected officials and the PBA president to put all the politics aside and truly deal with the issues that are at hand, and deal with them independently. If we're going to talk about the loss of life of police officers, which is always a tragedy, then let's talk about that. If we're going to talk about the protests and how we're going to deal with that, let's talk about that. If we're going to talk about the abuse by police officers, the inequity in policing in the communities, the unfairness, the zealousness of police officers. And one more thing I wanted to say, I was listening to the news report recently, and the police commissioner and the mayor talked about the broken window theory. You know, that they want to make sure that they stay on top of the small things to ensure that the big crimes don't happen. But one thing I want to say to the mayor and the police commissioner, there's broken windows in Harlem, but there's broken windows in Bensonhurst as well. So if you're going to have that attitude, and if that's the way you're going to decide to police, then you have to police the entire city that way, and not just the communities of color.
Certainly, I join in with everyone here, and my condolences to the family of the two fallen officers, and we should respect them in a way that Patrick Lynch did not do, to show respect for those who have been fallen in an execution-style shooting. I maintain that it was not an assassination, but it was an execution-style murder, because it's a negative connotation when they use charged words like assassination, but it was an execution, and certainly we join in with all those who mourn the loss, and sympathies to the families. We did a vigil, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, as well as the Guardians and Latino Officers Association, and other law enforcement agencies, I believe Noble, and we all showed and demonstrated how you show respect for fallen officers, as opposed to the turning of backs to political figures or to superior officers. That's not the way it's done at a funeral, where you show maximum respect and sympathy to the families. Certainly, when one says, "I can't breathe," or says, "Hands up, don't shoot," it is nothing about that anti-police. It is nothing about that that can be misconstrued unless you have a preset notion as to how you want people to protest. And so certainly there was nothing in these protests that led to the execution of these officers. This was one individual that obviously had mental problems, and to somehow dismiss his mental problems and pretend that there's a greater plot here and use charged words like assassination, that was wrong, and that's only emphasizing and exploiting a present situation, which is what Patrick Lynch was doing. He is a white supremacist of the highest order. I did not see this vim and vigor when Omar Edwards, a black police officer who was killed in May of 2009, when he was killed, I did not see that. As a matter of fact, he kept his white mouth shut when he found out, soon as he found out that it was a white cop, Officer Dutton, who I believe now is a sergeant, who killed Omar Edwards. He took the side of the white cop and was silent and let it go, because he always going to side with the white cops. The same way the National Organization of White Women now sides with white men and white people in general. This is what he did. This is what Cassidy did. The guy who took advantage of 9/11 with the white officers and would not want to have a replica of what happened, holding a flag, the flag with a Latino firefighter and a black firefighter and a white one. He came out of relative obscurity by voicing venomous racism to show that he believes in white supremacy and came from obscurity to become the head of the firefighters union. And this is the same way Patrick Lynch keeps his position, because for the most part, all those whites there believe in white people first, white supremacy first. That blue is just something, that's a con game that's done on blacks and Latinos, where the true wall is a wall of white silence, and this is what he takes advantage of consistently, and this is why he fans the flames of racism and makes it a them and us situation, a them and us, which obviously puts the black community at risk and the Latino community at risk in any and all situations, because he has that mindset, and this is why others can, regardless of who does whatever, the victim will always ultimately be black, because this is the way it's set up.
And Julian, one of the problems that I have with the way the conversation is attempting to change, and that's why it was important what you said, that we have to, what do they say when you have these, recalibrate? Right. You know, now the conversation is the enmity that exists between the union and the police commissioner. Right. I mean, and the mayor. The conversation should be about the enmity between the police department and the communities of color. Right. That's where the emphasis should be. Police officers are employees of the city. Right. There should be no enmity, and that should be immediately dismissed. Patty Lynch is a cop, right, and he doesn't trump a police commissioner. Right. So one of the things that I, you know, in the white media, and like I said, I don't say the media, the mainstream media, it's the white media, I make that distinction, is focuses on this bad energy. And it seems that all of the attention is now shifted on improving that. And, you know, the relationship between the police department and communities of color is taking the back seat.
Right. Well, you know, like I said, I think that there are multiple conversations that need to be had. You know, if we want to talk about the assassination of those police officers, we can talk about that. If we want to talk about the issues between the community and the police department, we can talk about that. All of these things need to be discussed, but we have to be focused and ensure that the main crux of whatever the issue is being discussed, and that we're addressing those issues. Because if you think about it, that relationship, the lack of respect, the disconnect, all of these things that are affecting the relationship between the police department and our community, really is at the base of a lot of the issues that are occurring. You know, so until we address the core issue, then I think we're still going to have the other issues floating above us. So we really have to deal with the core issue.
And Michael, in your conversation, you brought up Ferguson. For those who may not know, one of the jurists is suing the state of Missouri, stating that he wants to come forward and talk about some of the inappropriate behavior of the district attorney when they were prosecuting the case. The American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit in federal court against St. Louis County prosecutor Robert McCullum on behalf of this juror. And the juror wants to speak about the investigation and claims that evidence was presented to the grand jury in a manner by which it insinuated that Brother Brown was the wrongdoer rather than Wilson. Now the McCullum was the district attorney that was prosecuting Wilson, but this jurist is saying the way it was presented, it was as if the DA was prosecuting Brown. And the jurist also said the prosecutor's office presented applicable laws to grand juries in a muddled and untimely manner. You know, so it was a lot of confusion being presented. And so this grand jurist, you know, after the justice settled, is saying, look, it was clear to me, and I think other jurists, that this prosecutor intentionally threw this case. And this jurist, I don't know if it's a he or she, wants to come forward and talk about it.
Well, certainly when you saw what happened after he decided not to come back with the true bill.
Now you talk about McCullum, the district attorney.
McCullough. You saw him disparage the character of the victim, as opposed to concerning himself with the police officer. You know, I just don't understand how he just chose to go after Michael Brown, you know, which he did. And so I'm not surprised that behind closed doors he was going after Michael Brown. This is similar to what Robert Abrams did to Tawana Brawley. Certainly is similar to what the Staten Island District Attorney's Office, Donovan, did in the Eric Garner case. You know, he put Garner on trial and let everybody know about the 30 arrests and all those other things. and
rape case with DM.
And certainly, and there's consistency relative to what happened with Cyrus Vance raising questions and going after Nafissatou Diallo as opposed to going after Dominique Strauss-Kahn. So, and still came back with a true bill, had to leak and break the law by leaking information. There's laws governing that, but he leaked information from his office, and we, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement said either you have to lock yourself up or lock somebody in your office up for leaking information. So you see that consistency. These are the tools and the power of a district attorney's office, and certainly they were utilized in Ferguson, and now they're trying to use the law saying that it's against the law to reveal things in the grand jury, but there's also a higher law relative to for the greater good of the community, the greater good. And so this is what the ACLU is predicating on, that this information needs to come out so for the greater good for those in Ferguson and in St. Louis County, that it should be revealed in this particular case. They're not trying to say to go away with that law, period, but in this particular case, for the good and the healing of the community, it should come out what Robert McCullough did.
And Noah, when you talk about the demonizing of some of the victims by these prosecutors, that seems to be the norm, even with the media. There was an issue in I think the Daily News a couple of days ago. There were two reports. There was a report of a male white Hispanic who had decapitated his mother, and when they described it, they didn't use any adjectives to describe him. They didn't use any name calling or anything. They just named him, told the story, and moved on. There was another story of, and both of these incidents happened in Florida. There was another story of a woman who, and it says in the article, allegedly killed a puppy in front of her children. Allegedly. They called this woman a monster.
African-American
woman. An African-American woman. They called her a monster. They had a picture blasted over the paper. I mean, they really demonized her as they told the story. So when we look at, and we've seen this on countless occasions when they describe even the Wilding incident with the right, exactly. So they constantly use these words to describe African people, and that sticks in the minds of the readers, the people who are viewing these television programs. So they really cast like a demonization on our community, and that's something we really have to pay attention to.
And going back to the district attorney, Michael, and the problem that we have in terms of getting justice, members of the African American community, these judges and these district attorneys, they're the gatekeepers for a lot of these political parties and for white people, especially with influence. They're the gatekeepers. We have the case with Rubenstein, has been accused by one of Reverend Sharpton's employees, one of the leading members of the National Action Network, the district attorney Cyrus Vance, once again, as I stated, he did it with the DSK case, has refused to press charges, make a presentation before the grand jury for Rubenstein, who was accused of raping a young lady. All of us have been involved in law enforcement. It's not the norm when a woman makes an allegation. Of course it has to be investigated, but normally there's a presentation to the grand jury, and whatever direction the grand jury goes, district attorney follows. What is are you surprised that Cyrus Vance just announced, I believe it was today, yesterday, that there will be no charges filed, and basically just dismissing this woman's allegations?
No, I'm not surprised, because from the outset, Sanford Rubenstein was never arrested. And that's unusual when a woman with a sound mind and physical evidence, and that evidence was compiled by the police department, and certainly the call was made to the police department by the hospital. It wasn't the victim who made the call, it was the hospital that made the call to the police department when they saw the high degree of injuries and trauma to her body. So when you combine that, and there was no arrest in that particular case, she said that she was drugged. They found the very drugs that she was consistent with in her system was in the house of Sanford Rubenstein. She said, she wasn't even drinking, because they tried to say she was drunk. She ate some cookies, and these marijuana cookies were the same cookies that was in his house. So that's consistent. So when Cyrus Vance said there wasn't enough evidence, you had her testimony, you had bloody condoms in the house, you had the marijuana cookies in the house, and she said that she woke up after the fact and found blood all over the place. Well, that's enough. And then Cyrus Vance's office, I believe, leaked information about her kissing and hugging and all that stuff, which was proven to be a lie. The only thing that video showed was she touched his back, whether it was a caress or patting him on the back or something. She touched his back. That was it. So there wasn't all of this kissing and petting or whatever they tried to insert. So that's consistent with that Manhattan District Attorney's office, always impugning the victim. And certainly she was the inner circle, part of the inner circle. She was on the board for the National Action Network, and she was an executive manager or something in private industry as her job. And so this was not enough. This was not enough credibility, so they claimed that, the District Attorney Cyrus Vance claimed that it wasn't enough information to proceed. But trust me, there are rape cases every day with less information than that, and they proceed, and there's an arrest in that, and there's a prosecution in that. But yet, again, this only shows you that white supremacy rears its ugly head, and that the white man of privilege and of power was able to go, and everything went to impugning the victim.
Right, and it's funny, you talk about the rape case, right before Cyrus Vance refused to prosecute DSK, claiming there was some problems with the character witness of the victim. Weeks before that, he had prosecuted a case where a white prostitute had accused a black man of raping her, and he prosecuted that black man. Now, if you talk about somebody with a disparaged background, but Julian, real quick, and we're going to come to the phone calls real quick. When you talk about the demonization of African Americans, Sony Producers was recently, their computers were hacked, and they made a lot of disparaging remarks about African Americans. Amy Pascal, co-chair of Sony's Entertainment, she's the most powerful woman in Hollywood, made disparaging comments about the President of the United States, talk about, I know he likes the movie The Django or The Butler or Be Like a Man. She was jesting with one of her peers, and also sent emails to one of the executives warning them not to cast African American, in particular Denzel Washington, in big budget movies, because according to her, black movies don't sell. And then you have Revlon, the CEO of Revlon, made racist comments saying that he can smell black people when they walk into the room. So when we talk about the demonization of African Americans, one of the most popular TV shows is Duck Dynasty, where one of the stars said that black people were happy before civil rights. A lot of these disparaging. We have the Clippers owner make disparaging. So you find these whites in power, so-called in liberal avenues, making derogatory, racist, white supremacist comments about African Americans. And when are we going to call for some boycotts, Julian? Everybody's waiting, because it's evident that the Reverend Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the Oprah Winfreys even, who gave them a pass, is not going to call for it. These people have no respect. And these are liberal circles. We're not talking about, Republican Party. We're not talking about right-wing. These are individuals who are in so-called liberal genres, having these, their private thoughts exposed to the world. Real quick, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it is time for us to start planning, putting together an economic boycott. I think the problem is that we're not organized. We have not come together to insist that the people who are requesting our dime, requesting our time, respect our people. And it's unfortunate that we haven't put the two together to understand that if we hold back our dollars, then the way they respond is going to change. Now, I don't think that we're going to change the way they think, but the blatancy of them saying the things that they say and doing the things that they do may have to be modified or adjusted, but we have to hold them accountable.
I'll just say this is how millionaires and billionaires talk when black folks are not in the room. This is how they talk. This is everyday language, and certainly whether it was the owner of the Clippers, Sterling, or whether it was the ownership, the leading ownership of the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA, this is all par for the course. This is what they do, and so it's not out of the norm for that to occur. and it's interesting that, you know, to put perfume on a stink situation, they do what they always do. They call the gatekeeper himself, Reverend Sharpton, to come in and clean up their mess. So he's the one that's supposed to, he's the kingmaker, so he goes to black folks as the king and tells black folks, no, everything is cool, everything's copacetic, and he gets a check for that. And that just shows you the state of affairs we in, that all they got to do is call Reverend Sharpton, and he waves his magic wand, gets his check, and somehow black folks are satisfied.
Right. In spite of these revelations, no one's calling for a boycott of Sony. No one's calling for a boycott of Revlon. You know, this guy said he can smell black people when they walk in the room.
Right.
All right, first caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Happy New Year's to you. Where you calling from, caller?
Happy New Year, we're calling from Harlem.
Okay, Hotep, quick question, comment.
How you doing, Mike? How's everybody doing? I love your shows.
Hey, brother.
Sometimes I get just a little confused because we can't go to the justice system. Why do we always holler for justice? If these people are put there to help and to make white supremacy flourish, then who do we go to? I mean, I just wanted to hear y'all comment on that. Thank you very much.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Well, I think the first step is that we have to go to ourselves and hold them accountable, because they're not going to acquiesce. They're not going to say, okay, listen, let's just do the right thing and make sure black folks are treated fairly. We have to hold their foot to the fire and demand that we're treated fairly.
We cannot demand things from these civil rights organizations because white folks not in the business of destroying themselves. They support, undergird, and finance these traditional civil rights organizations. All of them are living off white money, so white money are not going to invest in destroying itself. So these are you not get justice from these organizations. They say justice with their lips, but inwardly they're looking for economic reciprocity in some situations, and just a payoff. So you have to, if you don't see an organization that you believe stands for justice, form your own. And this is what you see, even though people like Oprah are criticizing movements in Ferguson and the like. The fact is, you don't need a messiah, one point person to speak for all of us. The people in Ferguson are speaking pretty good for themselves, and that's what we need.
Right, and brother, like everybody just said, brother, you know, we have to, if we really understood that the problem with criminal justice is white supremacy, racism, then we would come together and we would police our communities and you know, be better organized so we can really challenge what we're confronted with. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Harlem. Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Hotep, brother. Happy New Year to you.
Since you gentlemen are former police officers, I will offer my condolences to the department. I've shaken hands with quite a few police officers since this incident occurred. Every time I see a car, I stop and they want to know what the problem is. I said, I just want to offer condolences because these people really do a good job. The good cops out there that do a good job and they're interested in patrolling our interests. With that being said, what I want to say is another one of the problems that we are having with the NYPD and Mayor de Blasio is also Reverend Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton needs to, Mayor de Blasio, I said this earlier to your producer, Nat Wood, earlier today. De Blasio needs to learn the electric slide and dance away from Reverend Sharpton because he's a very dangerous man. When you have people like Jamani Williams and Calvin Butts that go on CNN and afraid to mention this man by name, and they know that he's a problem, there's something wrong there. Also, for Brother Grace, who was very passionate about Reverend Sharpton not standing behind that sister that said that Rubenstein raped her, there was an article in the Daily News today saying that one of the articles that was taken as evidence for Rubenstein's apartment was a bottle of Viagra that was prescribed to Reverend Sharpton. So if he had to have some knowledge of what was going to happen, and that's why as soon as these allegations came out, he recused himself quickly because he actually thought that he was going to get that bottle back the next day and nothing was going to be said about it. So Reverend Sharpton is a very dangerous man, and if de Blasio doesn't distance himself, you guys remember that rapper ODB? Well, but de Blasio will be OTDB, that one-term de Blasio that you guys keep talking about.
That's right. That's what his name is. Thank you, brother. Thank you for your call.
I think you're absolutely right. In no way are we saying in any way that Reverend Sharpton was on location when this sexual assault, which we believe in what was said happened, but he wasn't there. But that does mean to some degree that perhaps has a history of setting things up, whether it's powerful white men and black women. Maybe that's his history, and maybe he set that up and was helping the guy out. But in no way is there any evidence of him being there. But with all of those condoms around, I'm sure that Sanford Rubenstein didn't use all them condoms by himself, so perhaps there was others, because there was a time where she said she woke up and found herself in that present condition, so it could have been a team thing.
Right. All right, thank you, caller. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hotel,
brother.
New Year.
All right.
All right, be real quick. I made a prediction about Patty Lynch a while ago, and now it's coming to pass. His demise is finally happening, and I want to give a shout out to this show. And also, my question is, there was a missing video about Mike Brown. It happened, the actual video of him stealing or causing trouble. That video happened on June 6th. That brother wasn't even in the store when the cop shot him, so he was basically walking down the street. And his friend was put in protective custody by the FBI. And this is stuff that wasn't played. What crucial role does this play in deceiving the masses? And I want to say reinstate automatics, and also I want to give a shout out to the Commissioner Bratton, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think he's involved with a lot of that stuff. I may not support everything that he does, but I'm not against the commissioner or the mayor, and I think how those cops turn their backs, they turn their backs on the people and the taxpayers of the city. And Patty Lynch is very divisive, very divisive. He's a white supremacist. But please answer my question: what crucial role does that play? That video that wasn't played, because I was under the impression that Michael Brown stole those cigarillos that day.
Right.
But that happened on June 6th.
Okay, all right, we're going to answer that question, brother. I don't. Yeah. All right, hold on a second. Hold on a second, brother. Hold on a second, brother. Before
black law enforcement.
Hold on a second, brother. Are you still there?
Okay.
All right, before you go, and one of them going to answer that question, but brother, you don't have no problem with Bill Bratton? You don't have no problem. Hold it. You don't have a problem with Mayor de Blasio? You talk about Patty Lynch being a white supremacist. He's only a cop. These individuals have the power and authority to affect our life. Do you know that not one black is placed over a law enforcement agency in this city by de Blasio? The Department of Sheriff's, Department of Investigations, Department of Corrections, NYPD, Department of Probation, Department of Parole. He appointed all white people. Do you know that the last police academy class, only 10% of the people that graduate out of that class was African American? Do you know that he had the opportunity to choose a black police commissioner, but he regurgitated this Bill Bratton, who's now appointing all the Giuliani people, Miller, Julian, Anna Moan. He's bringing back all of these whites. Did you see in the newspaper recently the 6 people that he gave contracts with, all white? These people are, later for Patty Lynch, all he could do is yak. These people, your police commissioner and your mayor are white supremacists, and they have the power and authority to affect your everyday life. Later for a little Patty Lynch. So so that's why I'm a little confused when you would articulate support for Bratton and the mayor de Blasio, where 85% of his commissioners throughout all of the agencies of New York City are whites.
Go ahead, brother.
And you would give him a pass, but the other question that he had.
But after that, I forgot what it was.
I totally agree with that. With what you said, Noel. You're right. I was wrong about that. I have yet to learn. I wasn't agreeing with him as a whole. I was basically agreeing about this cop shooting thing. I think it's a hoax.
Right.
I don't care I think it's a conspiracy. I don't know where this brother came from. I think the whole thing is a hoax. Mm-hmm. And I want to see video. I want to see video of that brother on the highway coming from Baltimore I want to see video. They haven't shown me any video.
Okay, but we want to talk about your first point, which was an excellent question.
Right. You're right. I don't support white supremacy, and I don't support them as white supremacists. I don't.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right, so all right, thank you, brother. Thank you. Let's go to the question that you asked. Well, I heard about that video.
Well, there's no doubt about it. When you look at the very clothes he had on, and you look at the flip flops he had on, and then you look at the dead person laying in the street, the clothes seem to be different, and the shoes seem to be different. So the footwear. So I would just say that certainly it looks like something was concocted there.
Now, Julie, I heard that as well. So we're going to look into that, because if that is actually true,
Right.
that's going to be preposterous.
Yeah, but you know, and I concur with you. But you know, there has to be some real accountability. You know, if all of this is true, then that prosecutor belongs in jail.
Right,
There should be charges brought against him by the Justice Department, and he should be prosecuted.
Right. All right, and it's not the first time, as Michael pointed out, with the rape case, I think in Duke, you know, that prosecutor was
Fong,
right, he was on that office.
District Attorney Fong.
All right, but next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, hello?
Where you calling from, brother?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Can you hear me? All right. I'm calling from Harlem.
Hotep. Hotep, brother.
Several issues I have. Number one, you guys started talking about Patty Lynch. I think Patty Lynch believed that he's entitled to be a police officer just like all the rest of them. Just like the last graduating class, there were several of their sons that graduated. This is a thing that's been going on in the police department for a long period of time, as opposed to opening up to the community. And even though they do recruitment in the community, but they don't do enough. They don't put out enough effort to do recruitment. The second thing is this. I think that when it comes down to police officers, whether it's nefarious activity or if it's just you're going to just question somebody, it still should be done in the same manner. You still should not have the attitude of, you're a black person, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to kill you, you're a criminal. And that's the whole thing. Because it's like nepotism with the police department.
Right. Okay, brother.
Whole attitude.
Right. Okay, we got your point, brother.
Go along with it. I know you guys got to go.
Yeah, we got a lot of callers. Thank you for your points, brother. Excellent point. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Calling from New York.
How you doing, sister?
Okay.
Quick question or comment?
I just want to say that I call this problem preemptive killing and preemptive incarceration of 885,000 Black and Latinos and growing. Why is that? Because there are companies and the government cannot afford to give these people good jobs, good housing, good education. So why is that? Because all these companies, you got all these automation now, machines, robots taking over jobs away from poor needy people. Also, you got companies that are moving to other countries to avoid paying taxes, that are paying $1 a day for $2 an hour. You know, then you got foreigners that are coming here educated, taking the few jobs left. Also, they're cutting out all these social programs to support the war in Iraq. So why does that leave us? We have to survive any way we can. That's why Eric Garner was selling Lucy's and they shot him. You know what I mean? Then we got some of them selling candy in the street, or they perform in the streets, in the subways. Or they hustle, or they do whatever they can to survive.
Okay, we got it, sister. It's a whole myriad, brother. It's a whole myriad of problems. Anybody want to comment? No, let's go to our phone call because we have a lot. But thank you for your point. You touched on a whole lot of points and made a whole lot of good points. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
How you doing? Hey, Community Cop, Brother Ray.
Hotel, Brother Ray.
The question I want to ask is, I wanted to see if anybody could come up with information on cop shootings in the turn of the century when the Irish, cop killings and murders in the turn of the century when the Irish was in control around the 5 points. And another thing, in the name of Dr. Clark, I could see every time these white folks sit up there and see us crying crocodile tears with this God that they gave us, this concept of a God that they gave African folk. They don't believe in God, and they give us this concept of a God, and John Henry Clark used to always say, you're worshiping a God that was given to you. And I could see them laughing every time we say never again, and praying and worshiping this God that was given to us. That is one of the major problems.
All right, thank you for your phone call, brother.
Used to
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Good day. Are you talking to me?
How you doing, sister? Where you calling from?
Hello there. I'm calling from Manhattan.
Okay, Hotel. Quick question. We wind it down.
Listen, I just want to say 2 quick points. Mr. Gurley, who now sings with the Angels because the only thing he did was step out on a staircase with a cop who shot him, didn't call 911, didn't call his clergy to say, oh my goodness, I shot somebody, didn't call his mental health people. He called the union to see could he get through the Pat Lynch and leave a message. So that's my first point. My second point about is a boycott. You're talking boycott. I say if people who cared about these things stayed out the movies and away from sporting events for a month or two, that would put the real fear in the economy of this country.
Right.
You can't stop eating. You can't stop going to work. You can't stop paying your rent. But you don't have to sit in the movie house.
All right, excellent point. Or utilize Revlon. We'll be talking about that in future programs. But, sister, thank you for your call.
Thank you very much, brothers.
Okay.
Good day to you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hotel.
Where you calling from, brother?
I'm calling from Harlem, Brother Kareem.
Okay, Brother Kareem.
Yeah, brother, let's just say this shit. Happy New Year to you, brothers, and y'all keep doing the job that you're doing.
Yes,
First of all, let's just do this shit. Let's start organizing, teaching our children what our history are, and doing the things which is going to be an upliftment to our people, and stop talking, because if you can't see what these devils is doing to our people, and you don't understand that this is a day and time that we are new people. You see these people out here in the street marching and protesting, and these crackers got a nerve to say, well, they are the fault, they are the reason, but yet still they want you to have sympathy for police officers. What the hell is wrong with it? It's a mindset of these racist crackers in this police department and the administration that look at us as animals, and we got to come together, put our egos aside, and be one people and move in one direction. And that's just one thing we should be doing in New Year. Y'all brothers be peace, and y'all keep doing a great job.
Okay, brother. Thank you for your phone call. Thank you for your passion. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? You're on the air, caller.
This me?
Yes, sir. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Harlem.
Hotel, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to think about Eric Gardner. That day when Eric Gardner, when he was strong-arm lynched, which I call it, in my opinion, what it was, that day, they say he was selling cigarettes, right? Now, that particular day, he didn't have no cigarettes on him, nor was he selling cigarettes. And if he didn't have any cigarettes on him, which wasn't never recovered from his purses at the morgue, and he wasn't selling these cigarettes, then what was the police arresting him for in the first place?
Right. Excellent point. But let's assume for a second that he was selling cigarettes. That's true. That he still should not have been killed. And there should have been more than one officer who was prosecuted. I mean, the other officers literally jumped on top of him. Here's a man who was a little heavyweight. You know, his lungs his couldn't expand and retract. He couldn't get air in. So there should have been more officer that was prosecuted. But caller, excellent point. But even if he was selling cigarettes, which I believe that I didn't see any cigarettes on the scene, but he still shouldn't have been killed. Next caller, as Julian looks at me. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? All right, caller, you got to be real quick. Where you calling from? All right, they might have wiped them off because we're late at time. So sorry. Wrap it up.
You know, it's so important that we really start to organize. I hear a lot of people calling for economic boycotts, a lot of people talking about organizing, and we need to talk to our friends, our neighbors, people in our community, and we really need to start organizing and start talking about a real effective economic boycott. You know, and we got to hold these elected officials accountable. Dad, I love you. Karen, be well. Leader family, be well. Harper family, nothing but love.
Just want to remind people again, Dr. John Henry Clark program, Carbon Avenue Baptist Church on January the 9th, 7 p.m., 145th Street and Carbon Avenue Baptist Church. And just want to give big ups to Guerrilla Journalism at led by Milton Alamani, Guerrilla Journalism at Sankofa Academy, every Mondays from 6 to 9 p.m. Excellent program there in the heart of Bed-Stuy. We need more of that, so I won't say on this program anymore that there are no journalists in New York, because there is a budding, growing system of journalists that's being developed in Brooklyn. And it's great to see these young and not so young people that are actually learning journalism. Hope you can expose the Omar Edwards things of the world. We need more of that, and God bless you all.
Right. On behalf of Community Cop, we'd like to thank our producers, engineer, Nat Wood, Sheila Berry, Veronica Kitt, Sister Sierra, Little Mo, I love you, Kitty Cat, and Mr. Harper, we love you, and our prayers forever. Reinstate Automatic. See you next Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Tell a friend, tell a foe. And Michael, one more time, what's happening this Friday? What's the location?
145th Street, Convent Avenue, for Dr. John Henry Clark, his centennial celebration. You got to be there. Master teacher, John Henry Clark, Reinstate Automatics.
All right, be there, be square. See you next Tuesday, 5 o'clock every Tuesday. And don't forget, you can tell your friends or family members if they don't have access to public cable, they can watch us over the internet on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Just look for the live link to Community Cop, and they can share the program. Knowledge is power. This 2015. We got to see a change, Harp.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got to see a change. Jeff the white supremacy within law enforcement. That goes from police to judges. Peace.